grade students. I'm Miss McAloon. I'm a teacher at Skip Elementary, and I'm so glad that you've decided to join me today for a little bit of practice with reading and with writing. I know that I miss my students so much every day, and I know that your teacher misses you just as much. So we definitely hope to be back together in the classroom soon. But until then, hopefully this lesson will give you a chance to continue practicing as a reader and improving your comprehension as well as your other reading skills. As we go through our lesson today, I'm going to suggest some extension activities. You're welcome to do any and all of those. If you need to pause the video at any time so that you have enough time to complete the activities, you definitely can. Additionally, if you want to participate and complete the video with a friend or with a family member at home, you are more than welcome to. But hopefully, if you're doing it by yourself, you'll still be able to follow along. So, let's get into our lesson. Today, we are going to be reading from our sleuth text. It looks like this. You might have seen it in your classroom or used it before. Hopefully, you will not have read the text that we're going to read today. But even if you have, we know that good readers go back and visit high-quality texts to improve our comprehension. So hopefully, even if you've seen the text before, it'll still be just as useful for you. So, let's get into our lesson. All right, so I know that when we are viewing a sleuth text, we want to make sure that we're acting like detectives, and not detectives like solving a crime or detectives like figuring out a mystery, but detectives in that we're looking for clues in the text to build the most comprehension that we can. I'm going to read the intro letter for the whole sleuth text so that you are reminded of what the text is about. From the Super Sleuths, subject mysteries. Dear Junior Sleuth Hound, mysteries are all around. There could be a mystery on your playground. There could be a mystery in a faraway land. There could be mysteries between the pages of this book. So what do you do to solve a mystery? Become a sleuth hound. Look for clues. Ask interesting questions. Then put all the pieces together and prove your answers. This book gives you a chance to practice skills that sleuths use. As you read this book, use the Super Sleuth steps to find answers to some really big questions. Good luck! Okay, so let's look at what those Super Sleuth steps are. Now, we use these every day when we're reading a text, but it's especially a good reminder when we're reading from the sleuth text that we want to look for clues. Those can be in the pictures or any text feature in the text, or clues within the body of the text itself. We want to ask questions. Be curious about the text. Maybe even keep a list of questions that you can research later to try to find out more about your questions. We want to make your case, and then follow up your case, whatever your opinion is, by proving it with evidence from the text. All right. So if we think back to Unit 4 in our Reading Street text, Unit 4 was all about adapting. And what does adapting mean? So adapting is change. In nature and in science, we talk about animal and plant adaptations. So animals can adapt their behavior to help them to survive in an environment. And over time, different organisms adapt their physical characteristics so that they better survive in an environment. And in Unit 4, we read all about different ways that people and animals adapt. So if you think back to Westlandia, Wesley was adapting to the difficult situation of not really fitting in and of having a lot of free time in the summer. You guys might have some extra free time right now. You might be thinking about how to create your own Westlandia. Then we read about exploding ants and how some animals, particularly insects, adapt in strange ways to survive in their environment. So today, it's really cool, the text we're going to read. It's about a person who has adapted an environment to solve a particular problem. And here are your sleuth tips again, just to remind you of what we're doing as readers every day. Okay, so this is just an overview of what the text we're reading looks like. I wanted us to look at the whole text first so that I can try to make meaning from the beginning. So if I look at the title is A Green Island. Now, because there's a question mark there, I'm wondering, are all of those words literal? Are we literally creating an island, and is the island literally green? Now I'm going to look at our photographs, and I see a photograph of what looks to be an actual island, right? There is some green on the island, but I wonder if the green in the title means something different. Can you guys think of any other meaning for green? Let's look at the other pictures to give us more clues. So I see recycled bottles here, or used plastic bottles. And then off to the left, it looks like stacks of paper, maybe magazines or newspaper. And then aluminum cans. So when I think about green in the context of used materials, I've heard the phrase going green before, which means that you're conserving, that you're using electricity and using our natural resources in a more responsible way. So when I think about that in the context of these used materials, I think about recycling, right? The first paragraph we're going to read is going to talk to us about and kind of give an overview of recycling. Now, I'm sure you guys already have a lot of background knowledge for that, so let's read this first paragraph only together. Are you ready? Recycling is nothing new. People have found ways to make something new from something old for thousands of years. In today's world, we hear a lot about helping the environment and conserving natural resources. Many people are adapting their lifestyles in an effort to make the planet a good place to live in the future. Recycling cans, paper, and plastic bottles and bags helps to reduce the amount of trash that ends up in landfills. Now, after reading that first paragraph, what are ways that you recycle in your world? So you might have the opportunity to recycle at home if you have a recycling bin at home, or if your apartment has a dumpster and then a recycling dumpster as well. Or you might be familiar with recycling at school. Often at school, instead of putting paper into the trash can, we put it into a recycling bin so that it can be reused later. Now, this is where the text gets really interesting. In the second paragraph, we start to put the idea of adaptation and change together with the idea of recycling. So we're going to read paragraph 2, and I want you to be thinking about what is the problem that the character faces, and not character because it's a real person, this is a true story. What is the problem that the person in this story faces, and how do they potentially solve this problem? Now, the person's name is from a different culture. I'm going to pronounce the person's name Rishi Soa, but it's okay if you pronounce it in a slightly different way. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to have you read to yourself. You can read out loud or independently. Paragraph 2. So remember that our purpose for reading this paragraph was to think about what was the problem that Rishi Soa adapted to. And I hope as you're thinking about answering that question that you're going to back to the text and realizing that he built an island made up of 250,000, 250,000 plastic bottles in the waters off the coast of Mexico. Now, I wanted to point out this phrase, ecological pioneer, because it might be unfamiliar to you. In social studies, we talk about pioneers as people who explore unknown or underdeveloped areas, like pioneers who moved out west in the 18th, 19th centuries. Ecology means the study of the environment and nature. So an ecological pioneer is someone who is exploring underdeveloped parts of our environment or of conservation. In what way is Rishi Soa exploring underdeveloped parts of our environment or of the conservation field? So, as we think about problems, really, Rishi Soa sets out to solve one problem of having too many items that needed to be recycled, too many items going into landfills, and he faces another problem by the end of this paragraph. What is that new problem? So, Spiral Island 1, the text tells us, was destroyed by a natural disaster, Hurricane Emily. Now, we're going to read the next paragraph, paragraph 3, to see how Soa responds to this problem. I want you guys to read paragraph 3, and I want you to think about how does Soa respond to the problem of his first island being destroyed. Go ahead. So Soa does not just give up on what the text refers to as his dream. He begins building a new island, right? Now, I thought this second island, Spiral Island 2, was really interesting because it includes not just the man-made adaptations where he and dozens of volunteers gathered thousands of plastic bottles to keep the island afloat, but there are also natural adaptations that are occurring that the text describes in this paragraph. What are those natural adaptations? So the mangroves that Soa and his team of volunteers included on the island, the text says that these trees and bushes are special because they have underwater root systems, which will help to create a stronger base, a more solid base for the island, and hopefully make it more permanent. The other kinds of adaptations are that other plant life are going to respond to the presence of mangroves and continue to grow there. Something else I wanted to bring up from this paragraph is the word diameter. Now, in math, we think of diameter as the distance across a circle at its widest point. In the context of an island, it wouldn't be the distance across like a flat circle, but the distance across the island that Soa created. So that island is now 60 feet in diameter. Now we're going to read paragraph 4, and paragraph 4 tells us where Soa's work is now. So I want you to read and think about how is Soa adapting his work and what are the continued ways that he's developing Spiral Island. Go ahead and read for me. Okay, so I want you to answer the question, what is Soa doing now? You are welcome to just say your answers out loud, or if you'd like to jot them down, I'm going to give you some time to do both of those things. Lots of evidence in the text that you could use here, right? So his island has a 2-story house on it now. His island also has a solar-powered waterfall system. If we think about conservation and using our resources, using energy from the sun to create a machine that washes clothes. He also is using mirrors to warm the water for this machine. And then Soa has a plan in the future to have it break free, not just to stay in the lagoon near Mexico, but to have it move into the ocean as a free floating island. Now, in the next paragraph, what are we on now, guys? 5? Yep. In paragraph 5, we're going to read about potential problems that could come up with his island. So as you're reading, I want you to think about what are the text list's 2 specific problems. Go ahead and read that last paragraph now. Okay, again, you're welcome to say your answers out loud or to jot them down in notes. What are the 2 problems that could arise with SOA's island? So, those 2 problems. 1, another hurricane could destroy Spiral Island 2, similar to what happened to Spiral Island 1. Secondly, even though SOA's plan and the problem that he's solving is that we have too many waste materials going into landfills and he was trying to remove them, the text says that actually, even though he's trying to remove those waste items from our environment, if they broke free, they could end up polluting the waters and the beaches close to where the island is. So, how can we solve those problems? Lots of good ideas for potentially how SOA could end up solving these problems. You guys have done a fantastic job reading along with me. Now that we've read, we're going to think about ways to apply our learning, the information that we've gathered from this text, so that we can preserve it and remember it longer. So let's look at our potential sleuth work. Now for all of these, again, you're welcome to write down a response. You're welcome to talk it out with somebody around you. And you can use like a bulleted list, or if you want to write a paragraph for each of these, that is up to you and the amount of time that you have to work with us. All right, so gathering evidence. This means that you're going to go back to the text to look for information. And specifically, I want you to go back to the text to look for information that explains about those mangroves, those special trees and bushes, and how they will benefit Spiral Island 2. Now, we talked about this a little when we looked at paragraph 3 here. The description of those natural adaptations that were taking place. But I want you guys, after the video, to take some time to reflect on that and to write down your ideas. Now, the next part, you get to ask questions. And the text is asking you to prepare questions that you could ask an expert on recycling and ecology. 2 of these questions should be fact-based, so you're trying to get specific information from this expert, and 2 of these questions should be asking for an opinion. So thinking about opinion-based questions, if we think about our modes of writing, sometimes you guys get writing prompts that are informational in nature. So asking you to write an informational response. Those would be like your factual questions that you're going to ask. And sometimes you're given writing prompts that ask for your opinion. So opinion-based responses. Those are going to be like the questions that you ask for your expert's opinion on the subject that you write. Finally, in the making your case subject, you're going to be actually writing an opinion piece. So the question is, should the U.S. government pass a national law to require individuals and businesses to recycle plastic? Now, I know when I write an opinion piece, I am picking a side of an argument. So here the 2 sides are, yes, the U.S. government should pass a national law to require individuals and businesses to recycle plastic, or no, the U.S. government should not require individuals and businesses to recycle plastic. You're going to pick one of those stances, one of those arguments, and then of course you want to support your argument with convincing reasons and with evidence from the text that backs up those reasons. So those are 3 great options for you to apply your learning and the things that you've learned from this text in a way to kind of allow you to solidify that learning so you don't forget it. Now we're going to talk about some extension ideas and some ways for you to really reflect on the learning that we've done today. And you guys have done a great job so far. So, as I was thinking about what we learned in this text, we learned about a person in real life who decided to solve a problem of having too many unused waste resources and to make use of them to create an island. So Soa's structure that he created was an island, but I want you guys to think about what kind of structure could you design on your own made of recycled material. So I think this is a great opportunity for you guys because you get to really practice the things you need to practice most. If you really like drawing and are working on your drawing skills, you could draw a model of this structure that you generate. Include labels about what the different parts of that model are and what different materials you used. If you're really practicing your skills as a writer, you could write a how-to, an informational piece explaining the steps in a process that would be necessary to create the structure that you created, that you came up with. Finally, now you would definitely want to make sure you have adult permission for this, but you guys probably are at home and probably end up with some recycled materials around of your own. So if the adults in your home are okay with it, you could use recycled materials that you find in your home to actually create a structure or a smaller scale of a structure that you've created. All right. So I really thank you guys for spending time with me today. It's been so good to look back at a text and to learn something new and to practice our reading skills. I sure hope that you will join us next time, and I hope that everyone in your family are staying safe and staying healthy. Thank you again. My name is Miss McAloon from Inskip Elementary, and we can't wait to see you back here next time. Thanks.